What's up, y'all? Will here from Team HuntStand, and today I'm going to be doing something special with y'all. A little different than what we've done in the past. We've done some broadhead tests, we've done some bow tests, and this year we're going to be doing a bow build series. We've partnered up with Mathews on this, and so I want to show y'all how I like to set my bows up in some different scenarios, different bows, and bring that to y'all. And so today we've got the Phase 4 33 brand new bow from Mathews this year. This is gonna be my bow that I hunt with, so I'm gonna show y'all how I'm gonna set this up to chase after whitetail this year. So for the first bow, I want to talk to y'all about why I chose this. This is going to be my personal bow. This is going to be my shooter this year, and I went with the Phase 4 33. There's a couple of different reasons why. Personally, I like a little bit longer bow to shoot. I can shoot the shorter bows like the 29, but just the string angle is the main reason. I like a little bit better eye relief. I like that string a little bit closer to my eye. So that's one of the reasons I shot it. The other reason, when you have a little bit longer riser on these bows, it gives you a little bit more stable platform for when you're shooting at longer distances. I like to go to Total Archery Challenge, so I like to have that capability to shoot out to further distances. The other cool thing about the bow that I have here, you can see I've got custom colors on this. Mathews offers a custom bow builder, so you can actually go in and you can mix and match limb, riser colors, string colors, the different colors on the harmonic dampeners. So you can pretty much build the bow out any way you want, spec it, rig it any way you want, from mods, draw length, everything. So Mathews offers that nice option. In all, I just like these longer bows. 33, it's a great axle to axle length for me. And I've just found over the amount of time and length that I've shot bows and the experience I've had behind them, this is a good all-around shooter for me. So first things first, let's run through the bow real quick. I'm gonna give y'all some quick specs. 6.5 inch brace height, 33 inches axle to axle. This bow is shooting up to about 336 feet per second IBO speed ratings. That's with the right arrow weight and the right poundage and draw length. But this bow is available in 60, 65, 70, 75 pound draw weight mods. The mods on the bow, the switch weight mods, are available in 80 to 85% let-offs. So that's really nice. You have a nice back wall with those, so that makes these bows pretty nice to shoot, especially when you get back into that valley. You can just sit on it with that 85% let off. To top it off, the bow is pretty light. You're just coming in just a hair over 4.5 pounds. It's like 4.68 pounds on this bow. So it's not a heavy bow. So for you guys that are going out west chasing after elk, mule deer, this makes a really nice option to take up there, and weight doesn't have to be as big of a concern. So new for 2023, Mathews went after silence, and they really went after that by bringing out the resistant phase damping in the bow. And essentially what that is, they went after the limbs. So traditionally, a lot of your bows, you have 4 limbs. You got 2 on top, 2 on bottom. And what they did, they came in and they essentially split those limbs and put their resistance phase damping in these limbs. So you now essentially have 8 total limbs. You've got 4 on top, 4 on bottom. So it's really gone after reducing vibration and sound. So really looking forward to shooting this bow. I've heard lots of great things about it. And then the other thing that they did in 2023, they brought out the bridge lock system. So you saw a lot of sights with the dovetail having the capability to being slid in the riser. And what they did this last year, they introduced the brand new bridge lock stabilizer. So now you don't have to screw in to your traditional riser for a stabilizer. So now you can slide it in. If you've got your own equipment, you've got your own press, I want to show you some simple ways to get your bow set up and do it effectively, efficiently, so you can go out and be in the field and be proficient. To start off, I went with their bridge lock fixed 5-pin sight. You can get this mounted in real easily. Just slide it right on in, flush up against the riser. That's the way that they designed this. There is a small indentation here, so that way your set screw for this goes into that and holds it in place. All right, I'm not gonna worry about getting things centered up yet. Right now, we're just mounting up everything on the bow. The next thing that I chose to go with is Mathews Integrate Rest. They've partnered up with QAD on this to make these. And again, it just falls in line, falls in suit with the whole streamline. You can see they've got their mounting system here on the riser that this goes flush up against and direct right to it. One of the nice things that Mathews has done is they give you the capability to get everything true to center pretty quickly right off the bat. And what they've done here right off the burger hole, which pretty much gives you the center of the bow, it's a hole that's a good indicator for you, or it's even a mounting, it's another mounting screw for a different rest if you want. But what they do is on this integrate rest, they pretty much already have it preset for you by sticking this arrow that you see right here, lining it up with the divot that they have going right through the burger hole. So as soon as you put this thing on and you get it mounted, it's gonna be pretty much center shot, dead center. They make that nice and easy for a lot of people to do. So you can just get that mounted and get her tightened up before you get the final mount on. One of the next things I like to do before I move forward on anything else on this bow is I like to check for nock fit. What I'm doing is I'm checking to see how this nock seats on the string, and all I'm gonna simply do is pluck this bowstring. You don't have to lift it up super high or anything, but I'm just gonna pluck it off, and if the arrow comes off like that, then I know I've got a good fitting here, a good serving. Otherwise, if it was stuck on there or it didn't come off as easily, then I would have to reserve this with a little bit thinner string. I'm pretty old school still with the way I like to do leveling on my bow. They've got really nice high level bubbles, but if you're just doing this on your own, you can get away with these two simple bubbles here. You just simply have to snap them on your string. This is for my arrow in a little bit, but the main purpose of what I'm doing now is just making, I've got a nice straight up and down 90-degree line with the bow. All right, well, we got that level, and to me, that's pretty much setting the foundation for your bow. That's setting the base, getting everything right where it needs to be before you start tying in, because if you just have that off, either too high or too low, you're gonna have issues, and this is something that it just needs to be done. Take the time to do it in the beginning when you first start out, and everything will build off of that and be better in the end. So what I like to do next then, I will bring my arrow in, get my launchers up, and just go ahead, put it on your serving, and then you'll take your bubble, mount it up on the arrow. And we're pretty close on having that bubble in between the two lines, and just have to adjust it a smidge, because what I will do here in a second is get my nock points tied in. Before I tie a D-loop, is I like to have nock points. You've probably heard about them a lot. You've probably wondered what they are. And essentially all I'm gonna be doing is I'm tying in nock points that are gonna be just above my nock here and below my nock. And so I'm just gonna do a couple of tie-ins. And what that's gonna do, it's gonna create a little bit of separation between my nock and when I tie my D-loop in. And what that's gonna allow to happen, you don't have to worry about it so much on longer axle to axle bows, but if you start shooting a shorter bow like the 29, the Phase 4 29, you've got to worry about nock pinch. And I have to worry about it on this as well, because that D-loop is a thicker material, and what happens when you get back to full draw is that D-loop will squeeze down sometimes and pinch on the nock, and you're still going to be able to shoot the bow, but you're going to get some wonky, freaky looking flights, and this just helps mitigate that and keep that from happening. So I just like to tie in. Couldn't tell you what the knot is. I've done it a million times, do it in my sleep, but you just do a simple tie-in knot on the top. And what I'll do, I'll get that first one fairly tight, and I'll make sure my nock is up against it, and I'll check my levels just one more time, because again, this is where you're building that base, and if you get off, you're gonna have issues down the road. And then I'm just gonna start layering knots on top of knots. And what I do, I like to do 3 knots on top and 4 knots on bottom. And it just gives good space between that nock and the D-loop. So one of the things to consider whenever you're tying in that final nock point, whether it's the top or bottom, whichever one you started on, you want to make sure you have a little bit of wiggle room between the 2 nock points, like you see I have here. I mean it's just ever so slightly, just like a 1/16 of an inch. You want to have just that little bit, because you can still run into pinching issues if you put it way too tight. I mean, if you've got nock point flush up to nock, up to another nock point, you're gonna potentially run into more pinching issues. So just remember to have that little bit of wiggle room. A consideration to think about whenever you're building these arrows is vein clearance. That's one of the things you're gonna have to watch, and that's actually one of the reasons why I choose to build my own arrows, which we're gonna save for another video, but I like to run AAE's hybrid 26 veins. I get really good vein clearance, and you can see it's pretty tight here, but I like that it's a nice, slim, 4-vein profile configuration. It's going to give me good steering capabilities when I have a fixed blade broadhead on here, but just a thing to think about once you start going down this route. Next thing we're going to do, and probably one of the most important things that helps you shoot your bow, is getting your D-loop tied in. I like to run just your standard BCY 24 material, and depending on draw length or what kind of release you're using will kind of determine the length of your D-loop, but typically I like to cut my D-loops to about 4 1/4 to 4.5 inches long to get them tied in. And a good pro tip on doing that when you work on bows as much as I do, you can see I've actually got it marked here on my, my press, so that way I don't have to worry about breaking out a ruler every time, but I'll just simply come in here. I like to cut my D-loops at about 4.5 inches because once I ball them up from the flame, they'll shrink just a touch. So you got your D-loop material. Important thing on this, you can take the butt end of your lighter, and you can kind of see there from the cut, you've just got, it's all balled up, so you want to take the butt end of your lighter and flange out both ends, because this is going to help you get a nice burn on these D-loops, and you want to get a good ball. I know there's guys out there that when they burn their D-loops, they'll make them flat, some like them bald. It's a personal preference. I like to have a balled up burn because I feel like I have more surface area, and it's just a stronger overall burn for me, and that's what I like. So you'll just spin that D-loop around, get that material melted, and then you get that nice ball on the top, just a nice mushroom head on top. Some guys flatten that out. Important thing to remember on this is you want to make sure these cool, because if that ball is still hot when you're tying in your D-loop, you're not going to get as secure and tight of a fit on the D-loop, which could be very problematic. Another thing to note when you're tying in your D-loops, you want to make sure that your knots are on opposite sides of the string. So what I mean by that is you want to have, when you're tying in your D-loop, on the top of the nock, you want to have your D-loop tied in where the knot is on the left side of the string, and underneath you want to have it where the knot is facing to the right side of the string. So let me show you. You can see there my burned ball, my melted ball is on the right side, so I've got it on opposite sides. Once I have that set, I'll take my handy dandy D-loop pliers, slide it in, and get a good cinch. So then now I've got a D-loop that, in my personal preference, is a good length for me. Some guys like them super short. When you have super short D-loops, you could run into some pretty significant torquing issues. Longer is typically better. So to me, this is a good, around about 1/2 inch in length, and it's perfect for me. All right, so we got the bow pressed now. Next step I'm gonna do is I need to get the cable tied in down below into the serving, so that way whenever we get to full draw, it pulls the forks up for the integrate rest. So this part, super simple. We're just gonna take that pull cord, and if you're not sure of which string to put it in, you can always just kind of pull up on the tension on your string here. And what you wanna do is you wanna look for the string that's actually rotating down towards the cam when you pull up. So you can see this cable here, whenever I pull up on it, moves that way towards the cam, because this will pull down as I get to full draw, activating the forks on the rest. So all I'm gonna simply do, I'm just gonna open up the string a little bit here, just kind of split it right in the middle the best you can. Just pull that through. There we go. So we got hard part done with cable driven rests. One of the things I like to do on most of my bows, and this is just strictly a personal preference, is I like to have nearly a bare bow grip, and Mathews gives you that option by swapping out their grip that comes stock with the bow with side plates. So we're gonna get that done real quick. In the package for this, Mathews gives you everything that you need to get these grips on, so you don't have to worry about going out and getting glue or tape or anything like that. All right, so next we're gonna be moving on to the bridge lock stabilizer portion of this build, which is actually kind of the part I've been most excited about. What I'm going to be playing with a little bit this year is Mathews does have an adjustable V-bar, so you can run a rear stabilizer. And typically I like to run the angles on these like, you know, around 4 to 5 degree on my angles. But I'm going to play with this, not sure if I'm going to hunt with it yet. This is just kind of a personal thing, and it's something I encourage you to try out as well. Because sometimes depending on who you are, how you hold the bow, what accessories you have mounted, a rear stabilizer might be right for you to run. Just depends on what you've got on the bow. But in this case, you know, with us having all the Mathews accessories on this, getting streamlined, thin line bow, this is going to help me stay in line with that same concept and just play around with it and figure out what's going to work best for me. So I've put in a lot of different rear stabilizer bar mounts for bows before, and the bridge lock V-bar that Mathews gives you on this is by far one of the easiest. You've got your one mounting screw that you put in for this thing, and then you've got one screw that you can adjust for both angles on this. So most of them you might have 2, potentially even 3 different screws to mess with, but this one, Mathews just made it simple. So I've got the 8-inch bridge lock stabilizer in the back. I'm gonna run 10 inches up front. And so what we'll do once we get out in the field, be able to play around with that a little bit, where I have it sitting, where if I like it, if I want to adjust it, you can also adjust the weights on this. So if it's too much or I want to add more, I can do that, but looking forward to messing around with that out in the field. So next step for us right now is we're just taking the arrows, and we got the length we needed. We're getting them cut. I'm just making sure I've got our nocks on correctly, and then we can get to finishing up this bow and getting her tuned. All right, well, we've got everything mounted on the bow now. I've got an arrow sitting in here, and I just checked center shot because these rests are supposed to come preset from the factory, that as long as you mount them, how I stated earlier, to get that internal arrow lined up with the line on the burger hole, that it's gonna put this rest preset at center shot, which just checked with the ruler, and the arrow is sitting dead in the center. It's perfectly lined up. Here we got it going right through the burger hole. So the last thing I'm really gonna do before I shoot this thing is I'm just going to line up my sight now for the pins to line up exactly with my arrow, and that's super simple. Excel gives you the ease of adjustment to loosen up, and then you have micro adjustment capabilities. So what I like to do here, I just stand back behind the bow and I will line the center of my arrow up with my string, and I can see my pins past that. So I see that I need to move it to the right. So I'm just gonna do that and get everything lined up. All right, 2 things that I think are super important from a safety perspective. Anytime you draw back on a bow in your shop, no matter how comfortable you are, especially if you're not gonna be shooting the bow, I recommend a dry fire safe release. So you can see that it's got a fake trigger and it's got a hook, so there's no way that you can accidentally tap the trigger on that. So I like to use this, especially just when I'm drawing back on it quickly in the shop. And then I always put an arrow in my bow when I draw it back, because if you have some kind of malfunction, you wanna be able to have that bow to release all that energy, have the capability to release all that energy into something, so that way it doesn't blow up in your hands and potentially harm you. So definitely want a release that has the dry fire safe capability, and then always put an arrow in. So we just put the first shot through this thing, and first reaction is just, dude, how dead this thing is. Quiet, I mean, vibration is non-existent, loved it. So, I mean, we don't have the peep in, but I'm just gonna keep shooting it a couple more times, just see if notice anything. But, you know, really just gonna shoot it a couple more times, get that peep tied in, and then we'll start tuning here shortly. All right, so one of the last things we're gonna be doing right now, we are going to get a peep on this thing, and this is where having somebody with you comes in handy, because when you draw back on the bow, you can have them take a permanent marker, and you can have them put the point of that marker right on the string that's in line with your eye. And the thing you want to focus on whenever you're getting that set, you want to have a straight posture. You don't want to have your neck ducking into the string. You don't want to be looking back into it. You want to have a straight spine, straight neck, and having that string come right down where you can see right through, and you have a nice level peep. That's what we're looking for. So we got the peep in place, we got the string split, and a lot of times when you first get that peep in, you're gonna deal with some peep twist issues. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna get the tension off of this thing, and we're gonna start pulling on it. I wanna check and make sure it's good and level for my eye and how I want it. But then we're gonna have to check for peep alignment, making sure there's no twist, and if there is, we may have to adjust a couple things. All right, so level on the peep was good, and what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna get it tied in. Over time, as this bow gets broken in, the strings get a little bit more stretch to them. Might have to do some adjusting in the future, but for now, for tuning purposes, it's right where I want it. So to stay in line with the whole inline method that we're going here that Mathews provides, and staying streamlined here on this, is we're putting a low pro quiver on. They did have this available last year, but we're going to put this guy on. It's got 2 attachment points. These guys right here, we're gonna be able to attach top and bottom, and it'll just be able to swivel in, and it's gonna stay streamlined. We don't have anything sticking out here. We don't have a rest mounted out here. We don't have to worry about our sight at all, and it's just gonna stay low pro and in line. I'm not necessarily looking to make sure that this bow is shooting 336 feet per second. Reason why, I'm not shooting a arrow that is up to IBO specs. They shoot these bows to that, and that's where they get those speeds from. So I'm more or less just looking at this from a checkpoint view from my end. I just want to see how fast it's shooting for personal reasons. 266. Very consistent. Very consistent. She's shooting about 266, but we are shooting nearly a 520 grain arrow. A lot of standards. It's a little bit on the heavy end, but that's kind of the arrow I'm looking for to have for this deer season. It's gonna do what I need it to inside 60 yards. It's gonna shoot fast, it's gonna get good penetration, and should just be able to shoot through just about anything with that. It's a great all-around arrow to shoot just about any big game animal in North America. So what I'm hoping to get out of this and look for in this paper tune is essentially a perfect bullet hole. And that's just gonna tell us that the arrow shaft is coming off perfectly right off the bow. If it's not, it's gonna be, depending on what the arrow's doing, there's gonna be a weird tear to it. So we're gonna be able to see that. But right now, just looking to see if we get a perfect bullet hole. So, I mean, so close. So you can kind of, you can see our marks that our vein made, but you can see that bullet hole that tells us where the shaft is, it's not quite, we want it to be dead center in that tear. Now, I'm gonna shoot it probably 2 more times because that could be a grip issue. It's not enough to tell me that it warrants me putting on different top hats, not necessarily warranting me to want to move the rest. But the fact that we've got good vertical movement and just a little bit off to the left tells me it might just be my grip. So we're gonna shoot it a couple more times and see if we can get the same consistent tear. If that's the case, we'll adjust. If not, we'll just have to see and cross that bridge. All right, so we got the bow on the press. We've got our top hats taken out. These were the ones that were in the bow. We had the thicker top hat on the right side, and we had the thinner top hat on the left side. So we're going to basically flip-flop the two and see if we can chase the tear. Money, that's the one. That's the one right here. That guy. right there. We're gonna go with that. Might shoot it a couple more times just to see, but feeling comfortable with that. We did put a little bit thicker top hat on the top. If we weren't gonna get much more movement, I was gonna have to do more stuff, but I feel comfortable with that. I like where it is. We are gonna get some more stretch out of these strings the more we shoot with it, so we might have to adjust, you know, later down the road. But right now, for where we're at, needing to get this bow sighted in, that is a great starting point. And then next, we're gonna go head out in the field and get this bow sighted in. All right, y'all, we're out here at our little mini 3D archery range that we have here in Central Texas. Early summertime, we're trying to beat the heat this morning. Got the Phase 4 33 out here. Gonna get this thing sighted in. We got it doped in the archery dojo, so excited to get out here and shoot this thing. Just get it dialed in, and then something cool I'm gonna do as well. I've got these ballistic gel blocks that have replica deer bone, ribs, vitals. It's got a scapula in it, and I'm gonna shoot a broadhead that I haven't shot yet. And typically, when you shoot your broadheads, you're just shooting it at a target to get an idea of what it's doing in flight. But I want to see what it's doing in terms of entry and exit and get an idea visually of what that broadhead's going to do for me this fall, instead of just waiting to do that on an animal. So excited to shoot the bow, shoot those broadheads at the ballistic gel, and then just have some fun this morning out on the range. All right, well, we've got this ballistic gel block that you can see here. It's got some replica scapula, ribs, and a vital piece in here. I've never done this before, and the thing I'm looking forward to doing about this most is last year I had a incident with a mechanical broadhead that we just didn't get great deployment. We found out in the end and ended up not finding a deer that I shot. Long story short, deer is still alive and it's here this year, so happy to know that, but that's the first time it ever happened to me. So just trying to gain some confidence back in some broadheads, and that's actually why I've chosen to shoot a fixed blade broadhead this year. I'm going with the NAP Ignite 3. It's a great fixed blade broadhead, sharp blades, and so I want to see what it's going to do on this block. I think it's going to be really cool to get that visual representation and see what damage it's going to do. And just to verify that these are the broadheads I'm going to shoot this year, we've got a high-speed camera down there on the Ballistic right now. It's gonna be cool to rewind that and see that slow-mo footage. And the other thing I'm gonna do to kind of give this as realistic as a test as I can give it is shooting at 20 yards. I'm not gonna get right up on that gel block. I'm not gonna back up super far, but I feel like 20 yards is gonna give us a more real-world application of what this broadhead's gonna be doing in the woods. All right, here's the first shot. Let's see what happens. Got a little low on that, so I'm gonna put one more. We still got the camera rolling.
You heard a hit though, you heard that whack sound real, right?
Heard that thwack, so you can definitely hear. Didn't get a full pass through, but it looks like it's all the way down to the vein. Oh, right, smack dab in the vital, dude. Let's go look at that. Whew. Just the sound that made, I mean, it sounded like, ooh. We got nearly a full pass through on the second one. First one, not quite. Dude, look back here, look at this. Look at the blood that's coming out. Look at it, it just went straight through that bone too. Right through it, man. Look at the blood. I mean, you can even see, look at the blood coming out, and you can even see the cut that it made. I mean, that's gonna do some serious damage on any animal you choose to shoot at. I mean, and look at the blood ring, I mean, just right through that bone. And that's one of the reasons why having a good fixed blade is another thing to consider when choosing your broadhead, because a lot of fixed blades, they can crush right through bone. Mechanicals, some can, but a lot of times you're gonna get some deflections, and that's where you can run into issues, potentially not finding an animal. Fixed blades, this is one of the reasons why I did it, because you can see right there, it split that bone right down the middle. I feel fairly confident saying that shooting this through an animal, you're gonna get a full pass through, especially with 520 grain arrow like I'm shooting, that's gonna do damage on anything. So after this test, my confidence level is definitely high. Feel really good about shooting that broadhead. Really excited to put that thing through an animal this fall. So I can 1000% say that that Ignite 3 Broadhead is what I'm gonna be shooting this fall. And just doing something like this, highly recommend doing it, because if you're just not sure what a broadhead's doing or you wanna test multiple broadheads, definitely recommend you take this route, because like you see here, we got that visual representation and it can really help your confidence going into the woods. All right, y'all, well, we just got done sighting this thing in, shot through ballistic gel, and first impressions, just shooting this thing, it's dead quiet, next to no vibration. This has been the best shooting bow. I've shot a lot of flagship bows from companies, different brands, and I am 1000% confident saying that this is the best bow I've shot. It's comfortable, dead quiet, dead on the vibration, easily tunable, and just an overall great experience shooting this bow. Hopefully you'll be able to take something from this bow build that I did, apply it to your Phase 4, or apply that same concept to your bow that you're tuning and help you be more successful in the woods this fall. If you like what you're seeing, we've got 2 more bow builds coming. We've got another Phase 4 29, and we've got a low poundage Mathews image coming at y'all. So if you like what you're seeing, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, hit that bell button down below so you can get notified for more videos. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys this fall.